Okay, so example 5 is just a kind of a review of the things we've talked about so far in section 1.1, but I've got a visual there that we're going to be using as our source of information. So based on what you see there, what did you say the population was? Okay, and remember there's a keyword there, a 3-letter word, all. All, who, or what. Okay, now you're probably thinking you nailed this one. I'm probably going to tell you that I think you're probably a little off kilter. Most of the time, people don't get this one right. This one is not all presidents. Okay, they didn't survey the presidents. A lot of those people are dead, and we can't ask them questions. Who did they ask these questions of? They asked these questions of all presidential, or they would have asked of all presidential scholars. Okay, these are the presidential scholars ranking of top presidents. Where did they get the information from? From the scholars, not from the presidents themselves. Okay, now again, the population, all presidential scholars. So, what is the sample? Well, the sample are the ones that were surveyed. Okay, so the presidential scholars, because they have to come from that group. So the presidential scholars who were surveyed. Okay, and that says here it's from a 2014 survey. So again, probably not everybody from the Political Science Association's Presidents and Executive Politics section responded. I don't know how big that is, okay, but it's those who were surveyed. All right, identify the variables. So again, what were they trying to find out? Well, we were getting the ranking or the rating, as you can see down here, the average rating for each president on a 0 to 100. So the variable would be the rating. For each president. And would that be qualitative or quantitative? Now remember, qualitative is just like a category or so of data. In this case, quantitative would not be measurable, continuous, because we're not going to smaller and smaller and smaller values of significance, but this definitely would be countable. Okay, so as I'm going to give you, I'm going to give you a 70%, or I'm going to give you a 60 on a scale of 0 to 100. So this would be quantitative. And if you want to get a little bit more particular, it would be discrete, okay, more countable. What would the individual be in this study? So remember, there is a link between population and sample and individual. So population is the all, the everybody. The sample is this smaller group in here, and then the individual is like one person within that group. So it would be one presidential scholar. And then what are 2 conclusions that can be made from the study? So when you look up here, okay, what are some things that you see, or what are some things you notice? You could say Lincoln ranked the highest. Okay, most people rank Lincoln the highest. You could say, you can pick out somebody specific if you want to. Let's see, or you can say presidents, Eisenhower, Truman, Jefferson, Teddy and Franklin Roosevelt, Washington and Lincoln all got higher than 70. Okay, you could say something like, I don't know, just trying to make a comparison. Clinton scored about 8 points higher than H.W. Bush. Okay, again, lots and lots and lots of things you can conclude. All right, Ford scored a 50. Again, anything you can see whenever you look at that and make some sort of a conclusion. Reagan and Johnson scored roughly the same. Okay, anything you can come up with works as long as it's legit. Okay, all right. So then, last but not least, and this is a question that may have kind of stumped you in terms of what I was looking for, but look at all of the data that we have had in this section. Okay, so we've had the data about the presidents, we've had the data about the tablets, we've had information like just that whole list about, you know, your student ID number and the temperature on a given day here and there, all those different things. Okay, for all of those different things that we had available, what are some of the variables where we could find a mean or an average? We would add up the values, divide by the total number, and we would come up with a mean, okay, a number in the middle. Some things that I'm thinking of, going back to the tablets, we could do that, we could do that for the display size for the tablets. Okay, we could do it for the price. We could come up with a mean for those presidential rankings or ratings, whichever one you want to call it. Looking at example 4, we could use the temperature in Skagway. We could do the number of apps on a phone. Let's see, we've already got money, the weight of a loaf of bread. Okay, lots of those. And again, I'm just kind of leafing through and figuring out what's there. For which variables could we find a proportion or a percent, if you will? Those are going to kind of be interchangeable. Proportions we'll list as decimals, percents we'll list as percents. So where could we find a proportion, or where could we find a percent? One of the ones all the way back that we did at the very beginning is the web paper phone survey. What percentage or proportion of people would answer each one. Others that I can think of, I'm looking again at example 4, whether a computer keyboard is defective or not. The breakfast cereal, in terms of the brand or whatever. You could possibly do your phone number. That might be a little weird, but like, again, like what percentage come from a certain area code? You know, what percentage come from the state of here or there or whatever, things you can do. Okay. And so now what I want you to do is think real quick about, what are the things that these all have in common? Okay. And what are the things that these all have in common? Particularly, what kind of variables are they? Okay, if you'll notice, all the ones under A, these are all quantitative variables, either discrete or continuous. Okay, either one, but they are all quantitative. Okay, in other words, we can find a mean for quantitative variables. When it comes to percentages, these are qualitative. Okay, there's not numbers that we can add together, okay, and say, oh, we're going to find an average. Defective or not, your answers are yeses and nos. You can't average yeses and nos. Breakfast cereal, it was the brand. You can't average Kellogg's, General Mills, you know, whatever. That's just not going to work. Okay. So keep that in mind as we go through the rest of the course. Those little details will be important.